afternoon. Good afternoon. It's Valerie here. Great to be coming live, really to answer a question. Answering a question from you, Jess. I need to tag you actually before I. Jess, where are you? Tag you while I answer this. Tag you after I answer this. Okay, so Jess, you posted a question for me, which was based on what I was talking about keeping a curious mind, the learning, growing organization, and how do you actually keep a curious mind? And so I thought I'd come up with three A's. I have a hard time remembering my own points. So I figured if I do A's, I'll be able to answer your question. So, first of all, the most important thing is we need to be aware of our own reactions as we're having the conversation. So I was thinking what's the best way to actually think about this. And I was thinking that when we are not listening with curiosity and openness, we're really inviting our experiences into a kind of a wrestling ring, right? They're coming in and we're like mildly aware of them, and then we're allowing them to let them rip at the other person, right? Without actually really knowing what it is we're reacting to, why we're reacting to it, and whether or not we're actually reacting to the thing being discussed on the table. And so I thought instead it's a really great way to flip that around and just kind of embrace that your thoughts and your feelings as you're listening to someone is like someone entering the party room, right? There are two of you having this conversation, and then an emotion of yours comes into the room. A question of yours comes into the room. An opinion of yours comes into the room. And it's a really great thing to just, while you're listening, attend to them, appreciate that they're there, and let them actually remain in the corner. So put those things in the corner. So if someone is having a conversation with you and you're actually really aware that you're starting to get a real emotional reaction, you want to attend to that, label that, and then put it in the corner, because you want to come back to it after the conversation, and then invite those people who came into the party room to figure out, have a conversation with yourself. That's called awareness, and it's really called self-awareness. So don't allow these things to come into the fighting ring with you. Allow them to come in, acknowledge that they're there, and then attend to them, and process them later. And the next thing I guess I want to say is when we're having a conversation with one another, it's really helpful to think of it more as art appreciation as opposed to an archaeological expedition, right? That is when we're listening to someone, and specifically if we are aware that it's conversation that we may not agree with, right? We may not agree with, but we still want to get the other person's point of view. And so going on an archaeological expedition is like digging, keep asking, why would you think that? Why would you think that? How is that even possible? Did you not read that article, or don't you know that this is happening? Well, we're not going on an archaeological expedition. When we're listening to someone with openness and curiosity, we appreciate that their point of view is valid. You may not agree with it, but it's valid. Have you been to an art exhibition? I am no artist, right? Uh, Honest to goodness, when my children were younger and they did art pieces, I appreciated them because I had to. I didn't want to hurt their feelings. But most of the time, if I was actually looking at something, um, in an art exhibition, unless it had a clear shape and form and I knew what it was and I could name the color, I don't know whether I would be, really that appreciative. So, on the other hand, if we remain curious and we actually accept the validity of the other person's point of view, and we look at it with respect and honor to say that that's really interesting how this person has arrived at this position. This must be very important to them. I wonder what exactly it is that is prompting this. Tell me more. how curious and how interesting this is about their personality, about their background, about their culture, about their experiences, and what they're throwing out on the conversation canvas. So, less archaeological expedition, more art appreciation. And finally, acceptance versus agreement. It is perfectly okay for us not to agree in the conclusions that we come to. And I think this is where we sometimes get muddled. Acceptance of someone's point of view doesn't necessarily mean agreement. Right? Acceptance of someone's point of view doesn't necessarily mean agreement. Accepting the person, though, that they have come to that point of view because they are perfectly, we want to honor them as human beings, that they've had a set of experiences, that they've had a set of beliefs, and that is how they've arrived at their point of view. We can accept them even when we don't agree. And when we do this and we trade our point of views with honor and respect, and we accept the person, and we say, it's interesting that you and I read the same book and you came up with this conclusion and I've come up with this conclusion. Would you mind if we did an exchange of point of view? I'd just like to see how you arrived at that. We can accept the journey that got to that point and then say, yeah, I can see where you're coming to from that. So you can name the commonalities in the picture that you see. I can see that this is where you've come to arrive to a conclusion. I can see that point of view, and this is how I've diverged from that point, and this is how I see it. Right? So that's just a very short way of answering a very big question. My 3 A's: be aware, go for an art appreciation experience, and acceptance does not necessarily mean agreement. And yet it is important that we actually accept that people can have very different point of views from us. Okay, Jess, I hope that you're watching eventually.